I call this a landmark. I'm seeing that there's a concave in the handle, so the rest of that side of the handle needs to be evened out. And I also need to make sure that the other side is evened out. All while you're doing this, I'm thinning as well, very slowly, because this dimension is easy to mess up. So I go pretty slow, but I'm also using a very heavy hewer right here, and I realize I should bring it down because the top is a little difficult the way I was doing it. I'm using the weight of the kindling table to hold the handle firm. One problem I see watching this back, and I kind of knew it at the time, I honed this edge, but the toe has some rough parts that you can't just hone. You got to go back to some kind of coarser grit. So I'm kind of realizing it's very important to have that toe sharp. You can see I use it a lot. I use the middle to the toe usually. When you use the bottom of the heel of the edge of the bit, usually you're trying to cut for power, trying to cut deep. This is where the damaged toe really comes in, well, not in handy here, because I'm just trying to do these little slicing cuts so it doesn't tear out too badly, and it's just really rough at the toe. I'm not going to show it in this video, you'll just have to believe me. But this is the process right here. You eye it up, you do a little work, you eye it up again, and repeat. You hear that sound? That's why I use smashing axes together to tell people that dinner's ready. I just marked what I'm going to call a landmark. You'll hear me say that over and over again. Mark your landmarks or eye them out and say that's where it is. I could see there's kind of like a wane in the grain, or however you need to do it. Sometimes I'll just put my finger on that spot and flip the handle or move the handle wherever I need, and then keep it there until the last moment, until I know I'm gonna be able to remember exactly where I got to work on. Now with the middle of the handle like this, you don't have to be too precious because this is a pretty thin part of a handle. So I'm just kind of thinning it in general right now, and I'll work on straightening it at the same time, but I'm not too worried about it because it's pretty thick, and I'm going slow. You'll see that that's a trend when I carve handles. I go pretty slow. I want to try to go a little faster, but at the same time, wood is precious. Even though I have a lot, lumber is precious when you rive it yourself. And so I just take my time, you know. You'll also last longer if you take your time. If you keep going strong, if you just have constant hand movement with the axe in your hand, well, the hatchet, it's going to hurt eventually. As you can see, I switched to the single bevel here. And on this large face, the widest face on the axe, it's not doing that bad because it's a little sharper than the other one, than the large one-handed hewer. That one is like 6 inch, let's say 6/8 wide bit. It's a long bit. It's a very well. No, it is wide. Let me just clear that up. The bit length is from the eye to the tip of the edge, and the bit width is from toe to heel, or heel to toe. So it's a little different, but it is an important distinction. And that's how they'll say it in books and catalogs. So you need to know that. It is important. And bit length is also very important. Maybe not for carving, but when it comes to cross-cutting in general, you'll want to know. Same with splitting, honestly. The stubbier an axe bit is, the better chance that you have at it being a good splitter, just because of where the metal can go. So it'll be chunkier. If it's a heavy axe with a stubby bit and it doesn't have a massive pull, you're going to be able to split with it most likely. So this isn't doing too bad. Like I said, look how it's easy to get it smooth when the bit is a little more sharp at the apex. You ever see that guy? I don't know his name, but there's this guy on Instagram, and he puts the axe head on the handle and carves like that, which is crazy. He really has good precision, that he's not kind of overgoing where he wants and hitting the metal on the bottom of his workpiece. He'll also put it so the metal is up near his chest or whatever. I was just checking if this is loose. I have to rehang this. This is not how it's supposed to be. It's funny that they put that wedge in barely, and they let the user, in Japan, this is how they do it. They let the user figure out the hang, because it's kind of like a barrier to entry. If you can't do that part, maybe you shouldn't be using a hatchet or an axe. But it's funny that thing isn't loose. I mean, it isn't loose enough where I can't use it. So it's pretty silly when you come across axes and hatchets that are new and they come loose super fast, because that one doesn't even have a full step wedge in it. It has no kerf, no wooden wedge. All it has is a slightly above, not slightly, like a halfway driven wedge, step wedge, metal step wedge. What do you think? Should I redo a narration if I stumble over my words? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But here's another carver. I kind of skipped past that. Doesn't work too good. It's keen, but I have to resharpen it all the time. Here's a Swedish hatchet I was given. I believe Axe Yankee gave me this bad boy. Uh-oh, is that cracked? Nope, I waste 25 seconds, and it's not.